You make a point in the book that the claim that governments are primarily concerned with security begs the question of security for whom and how security is defined. I wonder if you could elaborate on that point.
Well, the academic professions and studying international relations and so on do take for granted that the main role of governments is to protect the national interest, what's called the national interest, which means basically security. But they rarely ask security for whom. So the first question that comes to mind is it security for the population? And actually, I go through a lot of the record there in the United States, same elsewhere, and you can show pretty clearly and very persuasively that security of the population is a very minor concern, and it's often sacrificed dramatically for other interests. So security for whom? Well, there are two answers. First of all, for state power, states do try to protect themselves, and they want to protect themselves against their enemies. And one enemy is the domestic population. The NSA surveillance system is Snowden exposed as one example, but there's plenty of others. The domestic population is almost always considered a real or potential enemy, so you got to control them. So we need security of state power for them. But state power doesn't exist in a vacuum. That's one of the weaknesses of international relations theory. It depends on the internal distribution of power within the domestic society. And there's no secret about where that is. Plenty of academic and other research and sort of common sense simply tells you the obvious. It resides overwhelmingly in concentrations of economic power in the corporate system, extreme wealth, financial sector, and so on. That's where policy is overwhelmingly determined. There are interesting exceptions, but it's overwhelmingly true. So their security has to be guaranteed. Take, say, the Trans-Pacific Trade Agreement, just under discussion right now. Whose security is it defending? Not the population. That's harmful to populations, but very good for the pharmaceutical corporations. It's called a free trade agreement in the press, but it's a highly protectionist agreement, which protects the exorbitant profits of the pharmaceutical media, other major conglomerates with the kind of patent protection measures which never existed in the past, just like the World Trade Organization, NAFTA, and so on. Their security has to be protected. A crucial part of the TPP, like NAFTA and others, is that corporations have an astonishing right. They're granted the right to sue governments, which you and I can't do, but they can. They can sue governments if governments undertake policies which they claim harm their future profits. So if, say, Mexico sets up an area for maybe environmental protection, whatever, some U.S. company can, and in fact does, it's not invented, sue them because it's taking away the potential profits of a U.S. corporation which might want to build a gold mine there or something. This is the fact that these are called free trade treaties is ludicrous, but for that matter, they're not even trade treaties. These are investor rights agreements designed to protect the security of those who have an overwhelming role in formulating state policy, namely the corporate sector, not 100%, but overwhelming. So that's the two forms of security that have to be guaranteed are state power, private power, closely interlinked. The welfare of populations is incidental.